Video Game Journal 3. On September 13th, 1985, a game would debut on the Famicom that would change the video game industry forever. Mario had first appeared as the protagonist of Donkey Kong in 1981, and then was the title character of his own game Mario Bros. In 1983. This would be the biggest adventure to occur in his story thus far. He and his brother Luigi would travel to the Mushroom Kingdom to save the land from the evil Koopa King Bowser, who has turned the citizens of the kingdom into rocks and bricks, and has kidnapped the only person capable of reversing the curse, the Princess Toadstool. While that story may sound simple by today's standards, at the time it was a breath of fresh air for the industry. This game would be the culmination of the technical knowledge the team had acquired on games like Excitebike, Devil World, and Kung Fu. At the head of this project will be Shigeru Miyamoto, Mario's original creator, and Takashi Tezuka. Miyamoto-san wanted to have a colorful game that had a scrolling screen and larger characters than his previous games. These goals and inspiration from Japanese folklore would lead to the mushroom theme and, more importantly, the super mushroom mechanic that would allow Mario to grow. The game was not the first platformer game in the industry, but it did solidify the platformer genre as we know it. Another important member of the team creating the game would be their sound designer, Koji Kondo. In addition to creating the iconic sounds of the mushroom power-up, death jingle, and music of the water levels, Kondo-san also wrote the Mario theme that is arguably one of the most recognizable tunes of all time, right up there with the Star Wars theme, Harry Potter theme, and 2001: A Space Odyssey. All of these touches, in addition to the release of the NES, would effectively revive the video game industry, at least in the West. We, as gamers, owe a lot to Miyamoto-san because of this game, and this wasn't the only game that he was working on at that time. As a child, Miyamoto-san famously would explore the forest, mountains, and caves around his childhood home. I say famously because this is the well-documented inspiration for The Legend of Zelda. Miyamoto-san, Tezuka-san, and Kondo-san were working on both Zelda and Super Mario Bros. At the same time. The Legend of Zelda would officially debut in Japan on February 21st of 1986. It was released in the States and Europe on August 22nd and November 27th of 1987, respectively. Originally, Kondo-san wanted to use Maurice Ravel's Bolero as the game's theme, but the copyright hadn't run out on the song yet. This ended up with Kondo-san writing the theme himself. It is not as commonly known as the Mario theme, but at least in the video game world, it's probably equally revered. The game revolves around the protagonist, canonically named Link, trying to save the Kingdom of Hyrule and the titular Princess Zelda from the evil forces of Ganon. Link would embark on a quest to search for the legendary Triforce. This artifact was split into three parts: Din, Faror, and Nehru, or Courage, Wisdom, and Power. If all three pieces were collected, then the wielder would have nearly unlimited power. This is already far more complicated a story than Super Mario. This is due to the difference in genre, Mario being a platformer and Zelda being an RPG. An interesting difference between the two games was where some of the design choices came from. As I mentioned before, Mario drew from Japanese folklore, while Zelda pulled a lot from Western figures, stories, and legends. The Princess Zelda herself was named after Zelda Fitzgerald because Miyamoto-san thought her name sounded pleasant and significant. The green tunic and pointed green hat of Link was inspired by Peter Pan, as well as the fairies being inspired by Tinker Bell. Even Hyrule is inspired by Western kingdoms with their castles, magic, and sword and shield combat. Speaking of swords, the Master Sword was based on the Legend of Excalibur. These two series are still around today, and they have had an incredible impact. Mario would inspire other platformers like Donkey Kong, Sonic the Hedgehog, and Crash Bandicoot, while Zelda's influence would lead to the Castlevania and Final Fantasy series. These two games could be seen as the progenitors to the current games we have today. What can't be denied is that they are two of the most significant games ever created. As for my own experience, both of these games are hard, especially Super Mario Bros. Because if you run out of lives, you go right back to the start screen. It was really annoying. The main thing that really threw me off was Mario's weight. When you stop pressing a direction button, Mario keeps his momentum and, unless you send him in the opposite direction, he'll continue in his initial direction for at least a few steps. Because of this, I was stuck on the first 3 stages for well over 3/4 of my playtime of the game. The only time I got past those stages was when I decided to go into the warp room, and I was only able to do this because I remembered that it existed from hearing and seeing about it online, but I have no idea how you were supposed to find this on your own when this game was brand new. My time with Zelda was more eventful, but only just. I was killed more times than I cared to count by the monsters of Hyrule. The main reason why I wasn't as annoyed as I was in Super Mario was because if I died in Hyrule, I got to keep whatever items I collected, or if I was in a dungeon, any doors I unlocked would stay unlocked. This gave me a sense of progression that made me want to keep going. I was only able to find one dungeon during my playtime, and that was by accident. The game will give you hints, but they are very obtuse. There are places in the world that you can get to by blowing up a rock or burning a bush. There's no discernible way to tell where you have to do this, but you can. Again, I have no idea how people found these without the internet. However, while the games were hard, I did have a lot of fun, and definitely can tell why they caught fire like they did. Thank you for watching the journal this week. Come back next week for the next one. Please like and subscribe. Bye!